And the war in Ghana's petroleum downstream sector doesn't seem to be ending. I'm talking about the price war. It started from price floor, where some OMCs weren't so happy with the current price floor that the NPA or the industry had put out and said that, well, they believe that the price floor should be revised downwards. That did not happen, and we all know how that saw one key player leaving the scene, saying that, well, they feel they have not been treated well. And so that war is still there. It's a war of market share. And tonight, today we had we've seen a new communique from the NPA saying that they've moved from not just the price floor war, but now talking about discounted, because there are concerns from some of the OMCs are saying that, well, there are some of the players who are using discounted prices to actually get new customers into their food. And NPA is saying that, well, if you want to do that, then you have to make sure that all discounts that you definitely will apply should be across the length and breadth of the country. And so NPA is very clear that, well, fuel prices discount should be discontinued, and that is clear from the NPA. And they say effective March 16, what is the next pricing window, all OMCs using discounted prices, that should be discontinued. If you really want to do that, they want to ensure that there's uniform pricing. So it means if you submit to the OMC or to NPA that you're charging, let's say 11 cedi 20 pesos, it should be across board. That same price should be found in Accra. If you go to the northern part of the country, we should see the same price. NPA doesn't want to see discounted prices anymore. No more price discrimination. And that directive from the NPA is very, very clear. And they have, if you look at the statement that has been put out and what we are learning so far from what NPA is saying, two things: they want to ensure that there's transparency in pricing, because there's belief that there are OMCs who are using this strategy to actually milk the market. And also, they also have intelligence that some are actually even selling adulterated fuel through this, discounted prices, and as a result of that, they're able to come to the market to sell. But NPA is saying that, well, that should be stopped because they want to ensure that there's transparency in the space, and then also to ensure there's adherence to the established guidelines of 2024. That guideline, NPA says that, well, they are going to stick with that. No more discounted prices. We understand that in that guideline, it allows OMCs to charge some level of discount, or to actually allow some level of discount. But with this new directive from the NPA, it is still unclear that whether that 2% will go completely, or you can still apply that 2% discount, but that should be across board. It should be across the length and breadth of the country. And as soon as this news broke, or this was actually published, everybody's attention turned to the two big players in the space, which is Goil and Star Oil. We understand Goil left the space some time ago, saying that they felt that they weren't being treated well in terms of the Chamber of Oil Marketing companies. Star Oil left that space because of the issues around price floor. Star Oil wanted the price floor revised downwards. Goil, on the other hand, wasn't on that same tangent. And the chamber met, and they decided that, well, they were going to revise the price, or the price floor, upwards. And since that war that actually started, that price war that was actually started by Star Oil saying that we want the price to go down, since that time, we've seen prices, or the price floor, go up by more than twice since this year. And the expectation is that with this new directive from NPA, who says that the next pricing window will start 16 March, we don't want to see discounted prices. Even if you do that, we want to see uniform prices across board. Many say that because of this, we are likely to see fuel prices go up, especially looking at this on the tangent of some of the big players. Now, this is where the whole thing starts from, where many have said it's a game of market share, right? And who dominates the market so far? the state-owned Oil is coming up against a private entity, Star Oil. And you can see over the years, Oil used to command the market, hovering around 21% in terms of market share. But as it stands now, per the latest data we're getting from the NPA, that is not the case, because we all know that currently Star Oil is the leader, the market leader, currently holding about 13% of the market, Oil 11%. And this chart you see on the smart wall, looking like a fish curve, is what is causing some of these whole, underlying issues about price floor, issues about, discounting. Because at a time in this country where these two OMCs announced discount policies, where even if you go to, Oil, there were instances where breakfast was actually being served to drivers or motorists who drive to their fuel station to get fuel. Star Oil, on the other hand, was also using a different technique. Some will even say that there are periods where Star Oil will call you and say that, well, because you've been loyal, loyalty bonus, right? Take this for being loyal to us. In terms of the discounted prices, it came in so many forms, and that was a market strategy after the price floor argument did not work. But NPA is saying that, well, we want that one also out because that is not ensuring uniform pricing. And why is NPA making this, important point in terms of the decision to say that we are discontinuing the discount? It's simply because OMCs, according to NPA's guidelines, must maintain uniform export prices across all outlets. And this is important because if you are Star Oil, who possibly want to do discounted prices, it means if you are applying that discount, you should be able to apply to your over 200 stations across the length and breadth of the country. And that, in terms of cost, is huge. And so if you are directing OMC to say that if you want to do that, then make sure your price is uniform. It means it is going to cost more for some of these OMCs to do the discounted, prices that they've been applying recently. It's going to be very, very difficult if you are supposed to apply it nationwide. The current, arrangement allows some of the OMCs to charge a certain price or to discriminate the price depending on the commercial value of some of their stations. But this new directive will mean that if you want to do it, it must be national. And also, retail outlet may offer discounts of up to about 2%. This is the guideline of 2024, that even if you want to do a discount, it should not exceed 2% of that retail price. And industry has actually, adhered to this, 2%. But it has not been uniform in terms of it has not been national. But NPA is saying that we want this to be national. We want this to be uniform across the length and breadth of the country. And in fact, if you're looking at the taxes or margins on the export price of fuel, you can see that even after charging the road fund levy, the energy sector fund levy, and all of that, there is this unified petroleum pricing fund that is on every liter of fuel that you actually buy. How much is that? That's about 90% or so, right? Not so sure of that margin, but there's also that uniform pricing that NPA charges. That is to ensure that the fuel you buy in Greater Accra isn't different from the fuel possibly you buy in the northern part of the country, and that's to ensure quality and make sure that the industry actually survives. So we are actually paying for that uniform petroleum pricing fund, and that is supposed to be used by NPA to make sure that there's uniformity across board. There you go, just like I said, 90% per liter allocation for gas oil, which petrol, uniform fuel prices nationwide, regardless of the location. And that is the main reason why those guidelines were actually introduced in 2024, and the reason for having the uniform fund, the uniform price fund that NPA is supposed to actually apply to make sure that you have that uniformity across board. But as we begin to talk about discounted prices, price floor, and the fight in the industry, we have global crisis on our hands, because at the moment, what we can report to you is that crude prices, Brent crude prices, are rising sharply, and estimations from the industry is that we are likely to see fuel prices go up. And in fact, there are consumers who are still able to buy fuel currently because of some of the discounted prices being offered by some of these OMCs. So there are those criticizing this decision that has been taken by NPA, and we will ask our guests when they join us whether this was a unilateral decision taken by NPA or this was a decision taken by the chamber and had to be, implemented or enforced by the NPA, because we have crisis on our hands. And many are saying that this is the point where consumers need cushioning, consumers need protection. So why is the NPA coming in at this point in time saying that we don't want discounted prices? If you want to do it, possibly your prices should be uniform across board. This is how it stands now in terms of the prices. Remember, at a point, the price floor we had in this country not long ago was below 10 cedis. Now, because that price floor has been increased, some OMCs, the big players like Goil and Star Oil, are now being forced to sell around that price floor because that's very expensive still now to actually charge. And in fact, because of that, many have said that if you were to reduce the price floor or drop it down a bit, some of these OMCs can charge maybe around 10 cedis, 50 pesos, or 10 cedis, 80 pesos, and that will be a big relief for consumers. But the chamber says that this is where they want the price floor to be. And now NPA is also announcing that there will be no more discount. And you see it there. And in fact, the directive is very clear. NPA says that it will publish all export prices submitted by OMCs for public monitoring. And if they find out that, well, the price that you have submitted to them is relatively different from what you're charging in some of your stations, you will face the full, force of the law. And they want you to charge a uniform price. There are those who have divided opinions on this particular new directive from the NPA, and that's why tonight on PM Express, we have actually assembled the best minds to actually, interrogate this new directive from the NPA, to ask the questions whether this was a unilateral decision taken by the NPA or is something that the industry itself is pushing for. That those who have the perspective that, well, this whole thing or this whole new arrangement is actually against one OMC who currently, many say, has been sidelined. And the industry will say that, well, they walked away, but they walked away as a minority voice. The people who have different opinions on whatever that is happening in our downstream petroleum sector, especially in the OMC space. And this is why it is important to look at the new directive from the National Petroleum Authority, especially in a period where there is geopolitical tension in the petroleum space. We'll take a very quick break. After this short break, my guests will join me and we'll find answers to the question you see on the Smart Wall. An interesting conversation on fuel prices, and we're moving that conversation now from price floor to now talking about no more discounts, and that is the new directive from the NPA. And I'm glad that I have in the studio, the rep from NPA to actually break this down, and also top minds in the industry to actually pick their thoughts on how this decision was actually arrived at. In fact, but it's important to note that PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tank. It is strong, it is tough, Pepsodent and Cavity Fighter toothpaste, Stanbic CIT Impact Series. Now, let's talk water storage and water tank. Ghana, do you know the secrets to a real water storage? If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's simple. Then it's not the real one. Syntex Tank is a tank actually built to withstand the Ghanaian weather, whether rain or shine. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. Now, every time we eat, food and sugars are trapped between our teeth, leading to decay and gum disease. And in some cases, for our breath, brushing your teeth every morning and at night With Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, this prevents cavities and keep your teeth strong and mouth very healthy. Now, some see challenges, but I tell you, Stanbic Bank will always see opportunities where others spot risks, they unlock value. A Stanbic corporate investment and banking, partner with businesses driving Ghana's and Africa's growth from energy to mining to infrastructure to trade. They finance the ideas and enterprises that empower economies. Call them up on 030-281-5789 to speak to one of their CIB team or visit stanbicbank.com.ga to get started. Stanbic Corporate and Investment Banking, driving growth, creating sustainable impact. And my guests have actually joined me two via Zoom, and the main regulator in the studio, Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti, is Director, Economic Regulation and Planning, National Petroleum Authority. I'm glad to have him in studio with me, and we've already had discussions already backstage talking about the new regulation and some changes that I'm not even aware, and he's actually telling me about some of the changes that NPA has actually altered, their new guidelines, and how that 2% discount doesn't even exist anymore. Duncan Amoa is Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. He's also joining us via Zoom. And finally, we will have Riverson Opon of COMAC also joining us for this conversation. Dr. Riverson Opon is CEO, Industry Coordinator of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. He will join us via Zoom. But I have in the studio with me, Abbas, and I want to start with you because you are the regulator and we got this information from you today. First of all, I think the big question is, how did you come about this decision? Was it a chamber decision? Was it a committee decision, or is a unilateral decision from the NPA?
So let me say that every policy or guideline that NPA would publish, it's not published just because NPA wants to do so. We are a regulator that works for both the consumer and the petroleum service provider. And so we always look at the interests of these two parties and make sure that our policies protect both of them. And so this policy that we've brought now is coming out of engagements with industry, particularly the oil marketing companies. And just a background, as you mentioned in your introduction, this whole issue started with price floor and compliance with it and all of that. And I think in discussing it and looking at our guidelines, and if you remember, there was a back and forth about whether we need it or whether we should scrap it. And the industry actually had a lot of debates. And I remember speaking to on your channel and explaining why we need a price floor. And I think unanimously the industry supports why we need it, because as we explained, it's to protect the industry. Ultimately, it protects the consumer as well. So we decided to look at the guidelines again and ensure that these guidelines that we have, the pricing guidelines, are efficient enough and effective enough, let me say, to work for the consumer and the petroleum service provider. In doing this, one of the issues that we identified, and in fact, some other stakeholders raised concerns about aspects of the pricing guidelines. And this particular aspect has to do with the discounting of petroleum product prices by oil marketing companies. If you look at the prescribed petroleum pricing formula guidelines, which was passed by Parliament in 2015, at the time it was passed, NPA was regulating prices. Before it was passed, NPA was regulating prices, I think. So the original one was 2012. The prescribed, LI 2186 was passed in 2012. At the time, the NPA was regulating prices, and therefore it mandated that oil marketing companies have a uniform price. Here, we mean the price the NPA has published. In 2015, when we deregulated pricing, where we now allow the oil marketing companies to determine their price independently, when we now started seeing competition in the industry, the LI was amended to 2222, LI 2222. And remember, this is a legislative instrument from Parliament. That LI, Section 1C, still mandates oil marketing companies to keep a uniform price across their retail outlets. And so, in as much as oil marketing companies determine their own prices, and we have prices varying between companies, the company must maintain a uniform price. And the reason is that in the pricing formula, as you explained earlier, we have the Unified Petroleum Price Fund, which ensures that the cost of distributing petroleum products from the depots to the retail outlets is borne by this fund. So oil marketing companies on their own do not pay for that cost. So at the end of every month, they submit claims to us to pay for the cost of transportation. And this is to ensure that the consumer in WA, for example, pays the same price as the consumer in Accra. The consumer in Abukobi should pay the same price as the consumer in Tema. And so an oil marketing company does not differentiate prices between the same network. Now, along the line, we are trying to make sure that in as much as we've deregulated, competition is promoted, but competition must be healthy. It shouldn't be a competition that kills the industry. And so we've made a lot of adjustments to our pricing guidelines to allow competition to thrive. Along the line, we realized that asking oil marketing companies to keep a uniform price, and even let me add this, that one of the guidelines earlier was also that oil marketing companies will set a price for the window. And within the window, they keep the price until the window ends. So if an oil marketing company starts the window with a price of, let's say, 11 cedis, they keep the price till the window ends. They don't amend the price. This we realize does not really allow competition, because within the course of the window, several factors can allow an oil marketing company to revise its price. And so we allowed oil marketing companies now, since 2024, to revise their price on a daily basis within the course of the window. So if an oil marketing company wants to reduce its price throughout the window, they can do so, but they have to inform the regulator that tomorrow, for example, I'll be reviewing my price. You inform us today. And so nothing stops oil marketing companies from being competitive. We've adjusted this pricing guideline over the period to allow them to be competitive. One of the things that we allowed also in 2024, and prior to 2024, we allowed them to discount price by a certain margin. You mentioned
the 2%, right?
So before then, we allowed them to discount their price by maximum 2%. And there was a reason for this. The component of the price board that the oil marketing company controls is their margin, oil marketing company margin and the dealer margin. And the other companies they have no control over. In as much as you may negotiate your price from the BDC, you have to pay that money back to the BDC. And there are taxes and levies.
That's a cost.
Yeah, it's a cost, yes. And there are taxes and levies in the price board that after selling, you have to pay back to the appropriate account, whether it's GRA or whether it's statutory margin, you pay back into that account. So none of those components are controlled by the oil marketing company. It's just the margin. And the margin is to cover the cost of doing business. And so if you add the cost that the oil marketing company is buying from the BIDEC, the BDC, as we popularly call them, and also you add the taxes, levies, and margins, the price floor is determined this way without the oil marketing company's margin. So we take out all of these costs. And even the price floor, as we've explained earlier, even includes for the BDCs too, it includes their margins as well. So this is the
current price floor we have doesn't include the margins of these oil marketing companies. So if an OMC decides to sell at the prevailing price floor, it simply will mean that they are forgoing their margins. Is that what it means?
Basically, because the price floor, as you have it, does not include all those margins in the first place. So to sell at that price is a bit unrealistic. That's why you hardly see a lot of them. You hardly see them sell at the price floor. It will always be above the price floor. So they will have their general price, and then they will discount at a certain stage. But let me go back to the discounting issue. So in allowing the discounting, we said that the player has to have a margin to cover its cost. And so we said that you could discount the price that your oil marketing company has set. Remember that the NPA licenses oil marketing companies. These oil marketing companies operate a network of retail outlets. And these retail outlets, some of them are owned by the oil marketing company. Some of them are what we call dealers. So a businessman can approach any oil marketing company to operate under their franchise. And so they have what we call the dealer marketer agreement. So not all oil marketing companies you see under all stations you see under a certain brand belong to the oil marketing company. We realized some of these dealers were discounting. So the oil marketing company sets the price, because that's the mandate of the oil marketing company, and announces that price to all of its dealers or all of its stations. But then you realize some stations were discounting. So we said that, okay, if this discounting is happening, then allow them to discount, but not to erode all their margins, because they must be able to cover their cost of doing business. Because of the way the market is so competitive, some are forced to just sell at any price, and then they end up making losses. And the effect is that they are not able to pay back some of the taxes and the levies and the margins that they are supposed to pay back to government. So we allow that.
Yeah, there are those who say that you have over 300 OMCs in the system, right?
300.
And some
around 200.
Around 200. And some of them are not actually fit for purpose, right? They don't even deserve the licenses they have. And per your new regulations or your arrangement, it simply will mean that as soon as you get the license to operate, whatever happens, if you go by the guidelines of the NPA or the system, you are likely not to make a loss. And so your system or your current arrangement allows people to come in who possibly do not even qualify to come into the space, sell, And because of your arrangement of nobody selling below the price floor and everybody selling around a certain price, still able to compete and make profit. And many have said that, well, why don't you raise the bar for the competition for those who simply have the muscle to be in this space so that they actually will wipe away those who possibly do not deserve the license that they are using to operate currently.
So I like where you ended. So those who say some are in the industry who don't deserve to be there or don't meet the requirements, that cannot be accurate. Those we have today meet the requirements, and that's why they are in business. So maybe the discussion should be, like you said, like how you ended. Should we raise the bar and make the entry a bit more stringent than it is today? And that's a discussion for another day. But obviously, once you meet the requirement, you'll be in business. So that is something that we can discuss later. So like I said, we allow the discounting by some dealers. And then we now introduce a price floor in 2024. And when we introduce a price floor, we realized that there was no need to say you can't discount by up to 2%. As long as you don't sell below the price floor, there's no need to have a 2% discounting. So we scrapped that. And then in the existing price guidelines, which will expire on the 15th of March, we said that in point 11 of this existing price guideline said that you may discount. The point 10 says you must have a uniform price because that's what the law says.
That's an important point because if your new regulation scrap the 2% and the guideline says you may discount at what point? I mean, okay, so in terms of the margin, right? And we need some level of clarity in terms of that you may discount.
Let me make a correction. So the correction is that the guideline we are talking about today, the new one takes effect from the 16th of March.
Okay.
And that is what is scrapping discounting. The one we introduced, the current one, which was introduced in April 2024, that is what scrapped the 2% and allowed the discounting.
The you may discount.
You may discount. So that guideline which we have today, which will expire on the 15th of March, like I said, point 10 says OMCs must keep a uniform price because that is what the law says. And then the point 11 then adds that you may discount. And that was
so it means that even if you are discounting, it should be uniform. If you have 200 outlets.
That was where the error came in.
All right.
So like I said, this is also to correct the error we made by allowing the discounting because the law, LI 2186, LI 222, 2222, demand or mandate OMCs to keep a uniform price across. But I think in allowing the discounting, there was an error we made. So in the discussions about the price floor and enforcing it, this issue came up that we are even making the wrong, we are even doing the wrong thing in the first place by allowing the discount. So we have to go back to the law and see whether indeed what we were doing was wrong or right. And that's where we realized that indeed we shouldn't allow the discounting. But let me also say that this discounting has also brought about other issues that are not good for the industry. Like I said, it's also not competitive, anti-competitive. We believe that if an oil marketing company wants to reduce prices, as we have done today. Previously, like I said, you set one price for the window, you don't review the price to the window ends, which was not really good for consumers because if an OMC has set a price and in the course of the window can reduce, why should you prevent them? And so we amended our guidelines and said in the course of the window, you can amend your price as many times as you want. If you want to reduce, continue reducing, just inform us. And so if an OMC wants to reduce prices, reduce price for all your consumers, not for selected consumers.
Let me go on Zoom and speak to Dr. Riverson upon. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, your regulator says that you were at the discussion table, and this is something that was taken with the consent of the industry. Is that what you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, Abbas has, spoken the mind of PSPs, and indeed, when I hear that NPA has scrapped discounting, I find that a bit alarming. NPA has not scrapped; they have rectified an error, which I believe is long overdue to be corrected. I don't think that when NPA introduced this discounting regime, it gained that popular stance as scrapping it has done. The whole country is talking about the discount scrapped amidst a more important issue with price hike. And let me say this, the next window will be very interesting. Look forward to that. Next window from 16th of March, Ghana will know what real marketing is in terms of oil industry or downstream is concerned.
If you say we should watch out for it, I mean, if I'm a consumer and I'm listening to you, you sound very pessimistic.
Why? I think everybody who knows me that I'm very optimistic and factual.
So if you say it's going to be interesting in what sense? Are you going to hike prices?
No, I mean,
to the
going to be
extent
interesting
that we cannot afford?
because of course you can afford. Haven't you afford 18 cities and 17 cities before? So
a lot of people could not afford, right?
Well, the statistics shows otherwise. The supply and demand of crude oil products in the country grew by 15% plus. And Abbas is there, can tell you that in history, this is one of the highest growth we have had in this country. And it's when prices were 17 and 15 for quite a number of months. So I always say that demand for oil and gas is not always necessarily the price. It's also based on other factors that are very important to consider in economics: population growth and economics of the pocket of the people. Instead, I don't believe that you're going to pick Okada to go home. You're going to pick Uber, or you're going to drive, and you're going to consume fuel. Even if you are using e-vehicle, we are using at the point RFO to generate electricity in this country. Okay, let's not go into energy stuff now. But let's look at the price floor thing, and people are saying that, especially even you also said that NPA increased the price floor, and that is not also correct. NPA do not control pricing in this country.
The announcement is usually done by the NPA. So if I say NPA, we all know that it's a decision taken by different stakeholders, right?
What he wants you to say is that the price floor has increased, not that
NPA. Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, definitely NPA is the regulator, but I mean, it's sometimes unfair to be attributing some of this
because
to
the factors that make the price floor increase is not up to NPA. Exchange rate, world market price, NPA doesn't control this.
And no government controls it.
Well, but what is factual is that price floor has actually gone up.
Exactly.
And now there will be no discounting. We are likely to see the price.
No. See, again. You see, you let me land. I've written.
Continue, Dr. Pong.
The reason why I like PM Express, unlike the news, because we have time to teach. All right, I'm a lecturer. I've lectured for more than almost 10 years now. You understand? I like to lecture. I like to take my time and teach. All right, so that the public will understand the nuances the industry face. And it also helps you and I for reporting sake, because I am an advocate. You are a reporter. Your job and my job is the same, indirectly, because you sit in the studio, I sit in my office, and we are both giving news out. Okay? So price floor increased by NPA, this kind of statement should cease from today. That NPA does not control the international benchmark prices. NPA does not control the forex of the country. And these two things are important. NPA does not go to parliament and ask the government of Ghana to add 1 cedi to a levy. They don't do that. They implement whatever the government says. So if prices based on the build-up increase, they just come and announce it, but they do not enforce it, okay? And say that, please, this is what I say you should do, but this is what the market says you should do. Because Abbas will tell you today, last week we were buying fuel, AGO at SREF at 6.5. Today it's almost 8. Is NPA controlling that? No, they can't control it. They can't control that. OMCs that were able to lock in products have gained. But if you could not lock in products and you are buying today from the market, bro, next week I said it will be very interesting. Now, NPA and COMAC is not forcing OMCs not to discount. Let's also debunk that, all right? We are not saying that nobody cannot discount. You can discount, but then the discount flow through all your networks.
That's impossible anyway. You agree with me that that's impossible, right?
Why is it not possible? It is possible. No,
Dr. Rivers, I mean, you know the cost involved in discounting. If you are discounting across, let's say, an OMC that has over 200 stations across the length and breadth of the country, and you want this to be uniform, simply that comes with heavy cost, especially for an OMC that is still charging, let's say, the floor price.
See, my brother, some OMCs are already discounting and across the entire network. I can name them.
Maybe I think what Rivers wants to say is that, if I may come in, you see, if, like I said earlier, an OMC has a price today. If you think you have the capacity to reduce that price tomorrow, you can reduce it across all your network. Let every consumer benefit from that. We may call it discount. I think we are all saying different things, the same thing in different ways.
Yeah.
He is saying it's still a discount. I'm saying it's a price review or a price change. I have 11 cities today. If I think tomorrow I can reduce the price, I just go ahead and reduce the price, but across all my networks. So I don't deliberately say from the onset, if you've noticed what is happening. From the onset, an OMC says our general price is 12 cedis, but these selected stations will sell at 11 cedis, 50 pesos. Why should one consumer cross-subsidize another consumer? Because you have chosen that where was this location? How do you call this area? Abilingpe?
Yeah.
No, this one.
No, this is Kokomlemle.
This is Kokomlemle.
Yeah.
So why should a consumer in Kokomlemle pay 12 cedis and then a consumer in Jowulu pay 11 cedis, 50 pesos? Why can't all of us buying from you pay the same price? So the issue is that if you want to reduce your price, set one price. If you want to reduce it tomorrow, reduce it. Like I said, the guidelines allow you to review your price every single day. Nothing stops you. So if you say you can't reduce your price for all your consumers, then we have to raise questions about that. Why can't you reduce your price for all your consumers? Why should some get a reduction, some pay higher?
That's a good clarity there, but I still want to ask Dr. Rivers Nopon. They had also say that, well, if you look at this directive from fighting one of your OMC's decision to say that, well, bring down the price floor, you didn't come down, it rather went up more than twice. And now we are seeing no more discounting. If you really want to do it across board. They had also say that this is a direct attack on one OMC to benefit the other.
All right. And again, like I said, we have enough time to educate the public. And even our good selves, you and I.
I mean, I'm asking the questions being raised by people, so I need clarity from you.
Yeah. So you see, let me say this. Industry perspective goes beyond individual PSP, regardless of your capacity. Okay. And apart from what you've heard, I've also heard that NPA and the chamber are doing this to sustain the businesses of the smaller OMCs. But let me say this. Indeed, the top 10, top 5, top 15, top 20 are all saying, let's keep the price floor. So
including Star Oil?
Well, he's part of the top 5. He says we should scrap it, not even reduce it, like you said. He says we should scrap it so he can come down. If he can, it doesn't mean that everybody can. And the notion that is to serve the last tier of our membership, it is wrong, because we are not doing this because of the smaller OMCs. We are doing this because of the entire industry. Yes, Star might have the capacity, which we all know, but it's not sustainable for the entire industry. And we are not against Star Oil. Star Oil itself acknowledges the fact that we are scrapping the discounted price, all right? And therefore, we are going to enforce it. And like Abbas was saying, we had drivers driving across town looking for stations which had discount. That is wrong. Why should I have to drive 30 minutes, 40 minutes looking for Star Oil or Goil station that has a discount to buy from? Some unknowingly also drove to any of these stations thinking that they were part of it, only after buying realized that this particular station was not discounted. That's unfair. So we are talking about fair prices. And believe me, the consumers and you and I, which are consumers, should rather embrace this, because you are not going to be driving around the town looking for where Goil or Star has discounted. And like I said, we have companies like JP, Zen, who are also on the same discounted price as Star and Goil across the whole country, across all their outlets. And these are also OMCs. You understand what I mean? So basically, we are saying that let's be fair with our discounting. Let the consumer that you are saying that you are giving them value for money, give them everywhere. I don't have to drive across Pinterest and looking for where I can find Goro or Star discounted station. And that's rather unfair to you, the consumer.
Well, let me bring in Duncan Amo at this point. Duncan, you've heard the argument being made by Dr. Rivers upon, and then also from the regulator NPA, Abbas also making important points there. I mean, I don't know whether this came to you as a surprise in terms of the decision to say that, well, the NPA says it's a correction of an error, but many see this as a scrapping of the discounted, regime.
Let me say thank you. Good evening to Abbas and, of course, to Dr. Opong. I want to make three quick preliminary statements. One, the Chamber Petroleum Consumers, right, is a consumer body. It's not here to affirm, is not here to deny, accept, endorse decisions taken in boardrooms that for some they think is what the consumer needs. We would aggregate and articulate at all times what we believe is consumer-centric position. Again, Duncan and Kopek have got nothing personal whatsoever with any individual in the value chain. In fact, these squabbles, as you will call it within the industry, we fought with Bost, we fought with Ghana Gas. You call sometime, we were saying that the gas pressure from Ghana Gas was too high. We cooperate with them when there's the need to also ask for even a train 2, a GPP 2. So for us, we believe what works best for the trotro person, for an individual like me who struggles to buy fuel, for the teacher in Kumasi or Wa or Takrady, for the nurse who has a small car and would want to go to work, we cannot think, as it were, like those in boardrooms. And so, having made these preliminary statements, let me take a very extreme disagreement with the view so far put forth. What we did previously with deregulation when it started, we were equally of the thinking that, of course, you should keep a uniform pricing across the country. That was the practice then. Fast forward to about 10 years after deregulation, July 2015, and you realize that the market has evolved in a certain way. Evolved such that you are not getting cartels forming. You are not getting the OMC sitting in a room and agreeing on prices, because some of them have distinguished themselves, and have decided to stick with the consumer, rain or shine. And I'm happy Dr. Oponko mentioned the likes of Zen and, Starlight and all of them. They've distinguished themselves. Along the value chain, you do have a situation where some of them believe, look, because of competition, where I am located, again, don't forget about the economics of different locations. There are some locations you would find, I mean, people with affordability, they have a lot of money. There are some locations you may not find too many people with money. Ghana's geography is not evenly spread, right? Again, competition would also tell you there are some locations where you may have a smaller, in quote, station that would pitch against the big boys, you know, those with 200, 300 market spread, those who have created their brands already. And so if I happen to be a small, I mean, a lesser known OMC, and I am located adjacent to a bigger one, to my immediate left is another bigger one. You go forward a bit is a bigger one that people associate, I mean, those brands to. If there's a way to discount by 2%, right, so as to be able to attract some of the people who are price sensitive, we are saying that we've gone to look into the law, and the law says that the prices should be uniform across board. If that argument is allowed to stand, you know what happens?
Talk to me.
It means that the NPA and the industry itself have been lawless to Ghanaians, because that was their own making, that they now would allow the industry to, along the line, be able to give consumers, you know, the little freebies, 2%, 5%, the discounted rates, like you mentioned, right? It was their decision. It was not our decision. So if you let the consumer come to accept that, which is not even a strange practice, as I speak with you, go to the UK, right? BP would sell sometimes £1.10. You move to 3 kilometers and it's like £1.15.
Yeah.
It is not a strange practice.
Yeah.
It happens in it is happening in very advanced developed countries, because they believe the market competition, it serves the consumer better. In our part of the world, when you hear a lot of these innovations coming from the authority, look, go on social media. People are asking whether they are serving all of us or they are serving other interests. Because if for any reason, right, I live in, let's say, Odoko, and there's a station there, there are 10 stations, one of them have decided that, look, I can afford to give Odoko because of the volumes I do there. The volumes I do in Odoko, right, is not good enough. I'm not even able to meet my overheads. If I was able to go down on my margins by 5%, maybe I can increase my volumes, right? And be able to stay competitive, right? I am reducing my margin. That is 20 or 30 or 40% by 5%, right? As for the stations around 37 stations around maybe Kumasi, I can afford to leave my minimum or maximum indicative price at the threshold that I have set. But for places that I'm not even doing enough volumes, I may want to go down by 5%. That then we sit and say, look, oh, no, you cannot go down by anything for anybody anywhere. If you are going down, then go down across board. Look, you asked the question of cost.
Yeah.
Right? If I am doing, let's say, 2 million liters as an OMC or 20 million liters as an OMC, and I can afford to discount for maybe places that together I'm doing less than 500,000, so that I can even
Hello, Duncan. If you can hear me, I'll be glad if you could reposition yourself. I'm struggling to hear you. Your line is breaking. So kindly reposition yourself and speak to us so we can hear clearly what you're saying.
to say that we will not allow you to do for the that. I'm sorry about liters, right? As I barely sell, right? But I have stations. Maybe because the stations closer to me, the proximity, are equally lower priced. So like in the model of Guel, as you saw recently, they would announce some of the stations or outlets that they can afford to discount, right? Believing per their own numbers that if they went down in those stations and attracted even some more volumes, they will be able to stay a lot better or profitable. Then we go and come back and say there's a law. Honestly, from a consumer-centric point, I don't see how this works to benefit the consumer. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, let me come back to the studio. I was listening to Dr. Rivers on the phone, and he made a point about how interesting the next window is going to be. As I sit here, I mean, listening to him, I don't know, but I didn't really pick a lot of positive, sentiment for me as a consumer, saying that it's going to be interesting, right, in terms of pricing, because at the moment, there's a high likelihood that the price floor is going to be increased again. That will be a decision by the industry. And looking at what is going on across, the world, what is going on in the Middle East, where just when I came to the studio, I was checking Brent, and it's now around $81 per barrel. So if Dr. Rivers says that, well, we are likely to see an interesting thing happen in the next window, why do you think this is the right time for you to announce this and say that that window that a lot of Ghanaians are looking forward to uncertainties, NPA is coming to say that don't discount, and if you will, do it across board? Why do you choose this time?
So I'll respond to this, but let me just say a few things from just to respond to some of the issues that Kanama raised. Yes, it's true that COPEC represents consumers. NPA represents consumers. NPA represents the industry. NPA is supposed to ensure that...
Some say you represent the industry more than the consumer.
People always have their views.
Yeah.
So this is something you cannot debate. People always have their views. So let me say this. NPA will always work with the industry and all stakeholders to ensure that the interest of consumers is protected. NPA cannot go to every single person in the industry, in the country, to take a view before a decision is made. COPEC speaks for consumers. Ask COPEC whether they meet every Ghanaian before they speak, before they make a position or express a position on an issue. Does COPEC meet every single Ghanaian to take their view? Because all Ghanaians are consumers. I'm a consumer as well. So yes, we would meet a few people in a boardroom and deliberate and make decisions that protect the industry and then protect consumers as well. So just to mention that the fact that we met stakeholders who represent the industry and took a decision does not mean that that decision will be agreed by every single player or stakeholder in the industry. Now, also the issue about the discounting that you said, I actually expected COPEC to be happy for consumers now. Because,
why?
Yes, because you see, the selected discounting means that some consumers are paying for others. That's the truth. Because let me be blunt here. The NPA has observed that the selected discounting is rather being used as a tool to undertake predatory pricing. The argument that because I'm selling more volumes there is the reason why I am reducing the price is not correct. It's not correct. We've monitored the industry, and we've observed that the people, some of those selected stations is because you want to be very, very, let me say, use anti-competitive behavior against an OMC closer to you. What this means is that if there's a station in an area where there's not much competition around, the OMC would price higher there. And then those people, like I said earlier, will now be the ones discounting for those at other places where there's massive competition, because ultimately an OMC wants to sell volumes. So what we are saying here is that if an OMC has the ability to reduce its price, reduce it for all your consumers to enjoy that. Because I don't think OMCs have clusters of consumers where these consumers should enjoy a discounted price and these consumers should enjoy pay a higher price. I think the argument he made, for example, about let's say you're an order call, you want to sell, you see, there are several ways you can gain market share. You can use promos. For example, you see, it could come back to the same thing. For example, if you're an OMC or a retail outlet, and you're an order call, you think that I can give consumers more. You can say that my price is 11 cedis. If you buy, let's say, 10 gallons, I'll give you 1 gallon for free. It's a promo.
Loyalty bonus.
Yes, there are several ways you can use to attract. So it's in a way, you are still, if I'm a consumer and I know that if I go to this station and buy 50 cedis.
I hope NPA is not against that anyway.
We are not against a promo. All we are talking about prices here. So we are saying that if you want to discount price or you want to reduce your price, you can do so, but make sure all consumers get the same price. So I think we don't prevent OMCs from reducing their price. They can, like I've repeatedly said, they can reduce their price. Nothing stops them from doing that. This regulation does not stop OMCs from reducing price if they want to do. Like I said, every single day throughout the window, an OMC can decide to reduce its price. But let every consumer in your network enjoy that price. You can use other means to give promos to consumers. So we will continue to make decisions that protect the entire industry and protect consumers as well, as we've always done. We have the interests of the consumers at heart. Some of these issues are issues that definitely not all consumers will appreciate the technicalities within it. But that is why you have a regulator who is supposed to ensure that the consumer is well protected, while the industry is also well protected. Now, back to your question about the next window and what reversing said. The price floor, like you said, like reversing tried to correct you, is not something that NPA would arbitrarily get up and increase. In fact, since the price floor was introduced, if you look at the data, which we can share with you, you've realized the price floor has also reduced several times, especially last year when the indices were showing that the price has to reduce. It reduced on so many occasions. And so when it also has to go up, which is influenced again by the same indices, the world market price and exchange rate, it will go up. The components of the price board do not change. Taxes are fixed.
Yeah.
The levies are fixed. The statutory margins are fixed. The only thing in the price floor that we publish that you see that changes every single window is the FOB price and the exchange rate. And the good thing is that NPA, because we are promoting transparency in pricing, we publish what we call the daily price indicators. These daily price indicators, which we publish on our website in several newspapers, is to show consumers the movement of these indices that influence price in Ghana. That is the world market price and the exchange rate. And these two figures, if you check our website today, you see where they are. If they are going up, you will know that the next window price will go up. And as we all know today, prices are going up on the world market because of the war.
But the exchange rate is very stable.
Exchange rate has been stable. And so these two work together. If the increase in price on the world market is not so much that the exchange rate appreciation, as for example, will let the price drop, it will drop. We don't say that the FOB is going down or FOB is going up, but exchange rate can bring it down, so we will bring it down ourselves. We don't do that. It's a formula. They work together to determine where the price goes. There are instances when the world market price has to go down, for example. If the exchange rate is not doing well, it rather leads to the price going up. And so that's how it works. We don't increase the price. The price increases based on these numbers.
Automatic, right?
Exactly. So if the world market price is going to go, if the world market prices are going up and it's showing that the next window it will go up, it will go up. So the past two windows or so that you've seen the price flow go up, and oil marketing companies.
I think my other question was, why have you chosen now this uncertain moment where consumer is not so certain about how the movement of those various determinants in the equation will go, and NPA has decided to enforce what you call a correction of a certain error now?
So let me say that these two have no relationship. First of all, this directive to the industry was issued last week before the war started. Again, this directive does not stop an oil marketing company from reducing its price if it wants to. Like I said, you can reduce your price any day if you want to. All we are saying is, okay, let me ask, the increase in world market prices, and if it's going to lead to an increase in Ghana, does it affect only selected consumers in Ghana?
Not at all.
Exactly. So if you want to, as an OMC, you think, okay, world market prices are going up, but I want to give my consumers lower prices, do it for all your consumers. So we don't have certain consumers in Ghana who are affected by the increase in world market price. So you would say that I will use discounted prices to protect those people. All we are saying is reduce your price for all consumers to enjoy from whatever discount or reduction in price you can give to all consumers.
We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will actually go on the tangent of impact. We'll do the impact analysis, look at the next pricing window, which starts 16th of March, and I'll pick the thoughts of Dr. Rivers on the pond, go back to Duncan Amwa, and then also come back to studio to talk to Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti. Stay with us. We'll be back after the short break. You're still watching PM Express here with me, Isaac Ofeja. We're having an important conversation on our petroleum sector, downstream sector, where today we've seen the NPA, we've seen the communique that has gone around that NPA has actually taken a decision, and this is an industry decision that, well, that correction has to be made in terms of, the discount price and no more discounts. And if you want to do it, you have to do it across board. I've been speaking to Dr. Rivers Onopon. He's a CEO, industry coordinator, Chamber of Oil and Marketing Companies, and Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti is Director, Economic Regulations and Planning, National Petroleum Authority, and Duncan Amwa, Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. They are all here with me for this important conversation. Before we went on break, I wanted to ask Dr. Rivers Onopon about the point you made about the next window. It's very important to me. I need clarity on where the direction is going to be, and in terms of if there will be any form of upward adjustment, what sort of magnitude are we looking at? Is it going to be simply based on the Brent crude prices, which have actually rallied some, I think about 10% this week, or we are still going to take some cue from the city that has been stable, even though we have this crisis in the Middle East?
Right. Thank you. Even though it's very premature to predict anything, I'm giving you a caveat. Okay. Even though it's very premature to say anything, Kopek here said that crude oil, he predicted that it will be $90. As at the time, it was even 70. Today, like you yourself said, it's 81.
Yeah.
It was 79 yesterday. So it tells you that indeed NPA does not control the price floor. I'm sure you didn't read this from NPA website. You read it from somewhere. Today, as we speak, the BDCs are not selling at the same price they sold last week or even on Monday. It's not the same price. The price has changed. And like I said, it's moved from the 6-ish to 7-ish. Some are even doing 8 at a point. So on average, we are already seeing 2 cities increase at the SREF. And this will tell you that indeed, if we were even genuine to ourselves as an industry, the pumps should have been affected. But however, because of the way the pricing and the selling windows are done, it is assumed that the product that we are selling this window was bought in the last pricing window, when the crude oil product pricing were not as it is today. But this goes well, like I like to indicate, this goes well for certain OMCs, not all OMCs. I can tell you for a fact that this is the case for maybe 10 OMCs.
10 OMCs?
Out of 200 plus. Yes. Because some OMCs are not allowed to lock prices with the BDCs.
Interesting.
They're just not allowed to lock price. So you must pay as you go. And today, if you go to any BDC for petrol or diesel, as we call it, the price you get it today will not be the same price you got it last week. So how can you come and sell it at the price floor that NPA has indicated? Not set, indicated. It's indicative price, not set. You get my point? And like I said initially, if this trend grows, like you've seen, the plat price is above $1,000 per ton, per MT. That's where we are today with diesel and petrol. They're above 1,000. They've moved from the 600, 700 to above 1,000. So are we going to say that consumer is going up? So, but we are going to give you a discount price to pay even less than what the international benchmark pricing is. And again, when things are soft and we give you value for it, also accept it when things go rough. And like I indicated, and I believe Duncan himself can come and confirm it, that consumers are also happy that the certain OMC stations has been abolished. I'm telling you. We also talk to consumers. They are happy because now they don't need to drive across the length and breadth of the city to look for discounted stations. They can get it from anywhere.
You mean they are economic?
You're not saying that,
Dr. Pong, you mean they are economic agents who are happy that discount prices have been scrapped?
Oh yes, there are consumers who are happy because,
really?
like I said,
Selected
they don't need to drive.
Discounting. I think we should use it well. Selected. Discount for all consumers.
Yes, selected discounting, because you see, discounting is not everywhere, and I think we've started repeatedly. All right, we are okay with the discount.
But you just confirmed to me that there are OMCs like Zen who are able to do it across board, right?
Exactly.
That's not selective, isn't it?
Oh yes, they are doing it.
It's not selected.
No, it's not. Yeah, JP is doing it. Allied is doing it. So the point is, it's already been done.
You reduce your price
You get my
across.
point?
That's all. So I think Isaac, let me correct again.
Yeah.
Maybe that point may confuse some viewers. What he's saying is that, like I said, it's like we are saying the same thing but in different ways. Robertson says you set a price for a window, you want to discount it. He calls it a discounting. You want to discount it, discount for all consumers, so you reduce your price for all your consumers. Yeah. I'm saying that you reduce your price, I don't call it discount. So what we are saying is that selective discounting that is done at certain stations is what has been stopped. You want to reduce your price, you reduce it across all your network of stations, and that's very fair to all consumers. Because I don't think some consumers suffer more than others when prices go up or come down. But again, let me speak to the projection for the next window. I think, yes, it's unfortunate that the market is going where it is now, especially because, caused by the war. Yeah. Particularly for diesel, it's more scary because the diesel price, if you look at the price indicators that we published
remains
today,
very elevated, right?
If you look at the price indicators that we published today, for the closing price yesterday, the price rose sharply yesterday, significant increase in price yesterday compared to the previous day. And so this has pushed the indicators very high up. For diesel, for example, we are seeing the FOB price that we are projecting to be used for the next window, compared to this window's prices, go up by more than 30%. Diesel, petrol has gone up by more than 12%. But the good thing, I just checked the numbers today, the closing trading price for today, the market dropped, which is a very good signal. I'm hoping that tomorrow it will drop again, so that these expected increments that will happen next window definitely will not be as high as it would have been if the prices continue to go up. Because
definitely we should expect an increase,
from the
right?
indices we are seeing today. We have a few more days before the monitoring window that will determine the actual prices that will go into next window's price determination will close. It will close, I think it will close on the 11th of March. On the 12th of March, we will know the actual numbers. But so it's still very early. But at least we've seen prices drop today. This means that at least a signal on the global market is that the issue may not be as scary as it is. But definitely we are seeing the uncertainty still on the market because, I think this is happening because the US has promised that they are going to escort vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. We've heard the IEA member countries mention that they release stocks onto the market. We've heard the US itself also said they release some of their strategic reserves onto the market. So very clearly the market will be well supplied. Yeah. Even OPEC will come in to increase production if Iran's or...
since the war even broke, we've been checking global demand and supply. There's still a huge difference between demand and supply. There's actually...
Oversupply. The market is actually oversupply.
Exactly. So, that's why we've not seen fair value.
So there's no concern at all about supply. I think just that with these things, the uncertainty is usually a lot. So it will take a few days for us to see where the direction of this war is. And I know it will slow down because this is not the first time we have faced a war situation that has led to high prices. But after some point, it will settle. This into
Let me go to Duncan and speak to him on the likely impact of this decision by the NPA, although they say that they are targeting selective, discounting. But there are some OMCs who say that, well, our price is already discounted and we are adding additional selective discounting to it. I want you to tell us, what do you think the impact will be blending this with what we are seeing in the Middle East in the next pricing window?
Thank you again. I think that you are very, very smart. Let's not confuse discounting generally. So OMCA can discount price and say that instead of going for 30 pesewa or 70 pesewa margin, let me do only 40 or 20 pesewas.
Absolutely.
Right? For the window. So that will be their indicative price that the NPA expects them to submit to them. And so already they've done their discount.
Exactly.
Then, like I indicated, they decide that across some particular or specific locations or places, due to one, economic reasons, due to two, competition, I can do 5 pesewas more. So let's not confuse the two.
Exactly.
It is not one and same to say that I want to discount by, say, 10 pesewas. NPA is not going to allow. No, that is not the situation. If you want to discount, it's a price thing. NPA has no say when you discount. But how you do the discount, if you decide that, look, my volumes are not too good here, in, let's say, Asawase or Ankase or someplace, right? There's a lot of competition for me there.
maybe I can do 5 pesos more so that I can even increase volumes. And in so doing, the people in Ankase may be tilting towards my brand gradually. We have come back to now say, oh, no, flat order. Let nobody, try to, be selective any way, any day. If you want to do the discount and it can be for 500,000 liters, do it across the 20 million liters that you do within, a window or a month. I do not think that, again, we are being fair to the issues and being fair to the struggling consumer who may, at one point or the other, even if I'm paying what the OMC is charging me at 37, right? And I can drive towards Medina, and the same OMC says, look, okay, I've done some 5 pesos or 10 pesos here, just to be able to get a lot more customers to my forecourt. Then we say that that is what there's this terminology he adopted to say that we are engaged in some form of pricing predatory. It doesn't have to be predatory. I do not have to go on reducing because I want to kill another competition or kill another OMC. If I want to kill the OMC will also have the right to come back and say that, look, you reduce by 10 pesos, I can do 11 pesos, or I can do the same thing, right? I do not think that the OMCs are that bad to themselves to want to say, I'm doing predatory. Sometimes they just want to attract a little more volumes. Sometimes they just want to be able to even compete fairly against the more established brands, right, who operate in certain locations that are approximate to them. I do not think this benefits me sitting here. I do not see how this will benefit my uncle sitting in Takrade if he can get a little more discount than Zen has already provided. If he can get a little more discount than Gold had already provided across OMC. We are saying otherwise. Again, you are spot on to say that, look, the indicators, as Dr. Opon had rightfully suggested, which Abbas also confirms, is that the next window could be interesting. Price could spike. In the face of this spike, if some OMC or a BDC had stock, right? And I always say this, the assumptions that sometimes we make to come to some of these policy determinations, the assumptions themselves are flawed. And I would explain. You cannot tell me that...
If you can do that for me in 30 seconds, I have to wrap up. It's time already,
yes,
so
yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes, forgive me. You forgive me. You cannot say that in the next window, prices have moved from 700 to 1,000, and so you have raised the price floor to, let's say, it's 11 now, you've raised it to 13. Somebody might have had stock a month ago that they've not been able to sell. For that person, if you can reduce the price and still be able to stay competitive, you are saying that you have set at 13, and so you cannot sell at 11.
I really wish we had time to actually continue with this conversation. Very interesting conversation, but unfortunately, this is where time will allow us to peg our conversation. This has been PM Express with me, Isaac Kofi, and gentlemen, I'm so glad that you could join me to discuss this important issue. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a good evening.